The magic of a live event is second to none. In this video though, we're gonna go behind the curtain of your next live event or mastermind or retreat and look at the side that most people are not talking about. I hope you'll like and subscribe because we're in the second of our Masterminds for Coaches Legally series, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. All right, mastermind retreats are kind of the pinnacle of offerings for coaches. And I know I have watched some of my favorite coaches in awe as they command the stage or really thoughtfully lead a smaller group program in a beautiful environment that lets us do the work and get vulnerable and get in community with our fellow participants. But there's more to this than just the event planning component. But don't worry, in a couple of videos, we are going to talk all about what you need to be talking to your venue about and what you need to understand about insurance and your local place that the retreat is being held, so stay tuned. But today, we're going to talk more about properly setting expectations and structuring the retreat itself to minimize any kind of legal drama that can come into your business as a result of bringing humans together from all four corners of the globe to a wonderful retreat location. First and foremost, you have to understand that doing business across state and international borders is a huge benefit. We all know this. It's been a huge leveling of the playing field for us. There is a side to this that carries some risk. As always, it's never insurmountable, but I just want to bring it to your attention. And that is when you are dealing with consumers, especially who live in other places, most consumers are protected by the laws where they live with respect to their purchases. So if you are selling to businesses, we're less concerned about this variability in the rules you have to comply with. But when you have consumers from all over the place, you may be unintentionally, accidentally violating a consumer protection law, or you may have to give that client additional benefits or time or refund terms than your other clients based on the law where that person lives. Now, for most coaches that I know, having a legal review by a lawyer in the country or the place where their client lives is really not economically feasible, especially because even with a $25,000 or $40,000 a year mastermind, this can get really cost prohibitive. And you might spend that money on a local lawyer only to determine that really you don't even want to do business with a person from that locale. So it's just really not realistic to be going about it this way. Instead, we have to make some general risk assessments, being comfortable with the fact that most people who would be making a claim in their country are going to be problematic in certain other ways. And so we want to make sure we're properly vetting the people who come in and identifying red flags, which I'll give you one here shortly, as well as being sure that you are very clear about the program expectations so that you don't end up with an unhappy client in the first place. We know that unhappy clients are the source of legal drama in your business mostly. And then finally, we want to use some best practices across the board that generally comply with the laws as they exist in most of the countries where you're most likely to be doing business with anyway. So with all of those things in mind, let's break it down more simply. Just as an initial matter, you do not want to be booking the travel for your clients to come to the retreat. You want that to be a separate expense that they handle on their own. The reason for that being, many jurisdictions require you to have some type of travel license and insurance and bonding that it's unlikely that you have and that you most likely don't want to get. So let the travel be on them. The second piece is that we don't want you to be responsible for housing the people if possible. It is preferred that they stay at a hotel that has a venue where the retreat is being conducted during the day, but that they retreat to their own rooms in the evening. Now, for those of you who rent, big, beautiful mansions in wonderful locations and people stay in the house, it's not that you can't do that. It's that you'll want to be sure that you're going about it in a way that does not cause you to be responsible. One good way to do that is to make sure that you're registering each of your guests with whatever platform you're using to host, if that's VRBO or Airbnb, that type of thing. You'll also want to make sure that you have proper proper disclaimers and liability waivers in place, which we'll talk about later. In terms of travel, housing, the next component of that is transportation and food. We always want, again, any kind of logistical things to the extent possible to be booked separately by your clients. So that might include, the transfer from the airport to the venue location. It might even include things like an optional dinner off-site that everyone will meet at a certain time, and then they take their own Uber or they get a car, whatever the case may be. So these are just things to think about where you want to have certain components of the service being handled by people who are professionals in that service, because that takes the responsibility and liability off of you, and it puts it in the lap of people who are actually equipped to do that. A car service is equipped to handle what happens in case of a car accident when someone's in the vehicle. A host or a hotel is equipped to handle what happens if somebody is injured on the property or there's some calamity that happens. So again, I don't mean to scare you. I just want you to understand that each of these pieces has a potential for something to go wrong. And we want to make sure that people who are professionals in those areas and who have the ability to handle them are the ones taking care of it. So the last piece is the food. We do want to make sure that you are addressing the fact of any potential allergies, things like that. And if you are going to be providing food directly, that you're doing it from a commercial kitchen if possible, a third-party caterer, if not just having it at a venue that has restaurants on site or that are easily accessible to your participants. Again, kind of clearing the path for that. Now, I mentioned in our last video, which talked about the differences between masterminds and group and other types of coaching, that I have experienced personally retreats where people claimed that they lost valuable property. People wanted refunds because they either couldn't make the retreat or there was some sort of delay or cancellation. We want to make sure that in your disclaimers, you are addressing the fact of this retreat is kind of an optional bonus. Sometimes these things happen that are outside of our control, and that we will offer you something of equivalent value, which may not be an in-person event should things change. This was a huge deal, of course, during COVID. So many events that were scheduled during 2020 just simply could not take place through no fault of the coach's own. And I know many people who were promised retreats, which, sometimes that's the main selling point of someone joining a very pricey program, and didn't receive anything back and really no communication from the host other than, hey, we're going to be doing this from your living room on Zoom instead of from our fabulous tropical location. So again, we always want to think about what could go wrong potentially and what avenues of resolution do we want to have available for our clients. So as we talked about earlier, some of these avenues for resolution would be going to the provider of those particular services. Some of it is anticipating in advance that there may be things out of your control that you simply have to offer a substitute for. But otherwise, making sure that your people understand that there's a lot of moving parts with this, and if it's not the main thing you're selling, just the retreat, that it's just simply one component of the overall benefit that they're going to receive. One additional item for you to understand is that there's a difference between a disclaimer and a waiver. So a disclaimer is really giving you the opportunity to provide context for what you're going to provide, what your client is expected to bring to the table, what they're expected to handle. And the waiver is the document where it says, even if these certain things happen, property is lost, or there's an injury, a delay, a cancellation, or you just simply choose not to attend, you are waiving or giving up your right to sue me, the coach, for those things that are outside of my control. So these are different and additional documents that we would have related specifically to the retreat component that we would not otherwise have in settings where we're not bringing people together in person. There are still things that we look at when they're meeting virtually, which we've talked about in the group coaching series, including group rules, and making sure you're not responsible for things that happen in the client relationships amongst each other, but there is this added layer specifically when you are hosting people in person. I do want to add one more little cherry on top, and this is from personal experience. If you are renting a fabulous mansion, let's say, to host the venue, and it does have bedrooms, I recommend that you not charge your clients separately to stay in the bedrooms. It's not only kind of tacky, but also it sort of muddies who gets to stay in the house, as well as what happens if there is some type of injury or problem that occurs in the house. So we really would prefer that people stay off site, or if everyone is to stay together, that you also understand the possibility that you cannot provide surveillance or security or anything for these people who are interacting, going to sleep, being in a vulnerable position in the same house. So unfortunately, in the modern day, we kind of have to think about these things, and especially for people who are meeting the first time, we just don't know what people will do when they get together in those vulnerable settings. So highly encourage you to really consider judicious use of the house itself, depending on the group that you have coming. All right, if this video was helpful for you, be sure to like and subscribe so that you get notice of the next one and you help this video be seen by other coaches who may have no idea about these particular issues in the retreat setting. And stick around, because in our next video, I am going to reveal to you what I'm seeing in 2026 and beyond for the pricing and packaging of mastermind programs in the coaching industry. I'll see you there.